All right, this next section we're going to call 4.2. And we're going to be solving proportions, but what we're going to do is they're going to become a little more complicated, and sometimes we call that solving a rational expression. But I'm just going to put I can solve more difficult. I'm writing really fast, aren't I? Let me slow her down a little bit. I'm cruising. I'm on speed dial here. I can solve more difficult proportions. All right, so let's see what I mean by solve more difficult proportions. I'm going to put one over here, and then I'm going to have us write the steps over on the side. So if you get stuck on your worksheet, and by the way, you can use your notes. You're going to be taking a quiz after this, and you can certainly use your notes on it. And these steps that we write over on the side are going to really help you. So these are going to become more complicated, and here's why. By the way, anytime I feel like I have to sneeze. Anytime I have a cold, I actually don't now because I'm making this video in March and you're probably watching it in April and I'm probably over my cold, but today, while I'm making the video, I have a cold. Today in class, I probably don't. Do you care? Probably not. So let me continue. What's going to happen is anytime we have two equal fractions, we start the same way. We still are going to set those cross products equal. So we're going to put a little number 1 over here and we're going to write cross multiply. And we can just write mult and we'll know what we mean. So we're going to start these exactly the same way. C times C minus 4, lock and load it, is equal to 7 times 3. And when I do that, I get C times C is C squared. C times 4 is 4C. And 7 times 3 is 21. Here's what's different about these and makes them more difficult. Let's draw an arrow. It's right here. We don't just have like an X or a C or a B, it's squared. So all it does is it makes us draw on some other skills that we already know how to do. Because this is now called a quadratic equation. It's to the second degree. We have a couple ways of solving those. The easiest way is to factor. And in order to factor it, we need to step 2, get the right-hand side equal to 0. So I'm going to go over here to the right-hand side and look at this 21 and decide how do I get rid of it. And because it's positive, to make it 0, I'm going to subtract 21. But whatever I do to the right-hand side, I have to do to the left-hand side also. So what that leaves me with over on the left is the C squared minus 4C minus 21. None of those combine because none of them are like terms. And on the right-hand side, I have a 0. Step 3, I'm going to factor it. And they'll factor easily. I won't make any that are nasty to factor, so it'll be pretty clear to you what numbers multiply to equal 21 that I can get a 4 out of. 7 and 3 multiply to equal 21. If I keep them as they are, they add up to 10. But if I overload the negatives so that I get a sum that's negative, you'll notice that those two now add up to negative 4. So when I factor it, I end up with C minus 7. Stupid cold. Hopefully I don't sneeze in your ear here. That would be disgusting, right? I get C minus 7 times C plus 3 is equal to 0. That is now factored. Step 4, I need to solve it. I just need to figure out what values for C will result in me getting a product or multiplying and getting a 0. So I'm really just in search of what minus 7 equals 0. And you can actually set it equal and say, well, C minus 7 equals 0. So I'd add 7 to both sides and I'd get a 7. Or you can just use kind of common sense. 7 minus 7 is 0. On this side, what plus 3 would give you a 0? And the answer to that is negative 3. So this actually has two solutions. 7 or negative 3. And you can always, and I would on a quiz or a test, you can always check your answer. I'm only going to check one of these because checking kind of bores me, but let's go check the 7. If I travel on up here and I put the 7 in for C here and right here, and I rewrite it, I would have over there on the left, instead of the C up on top, I'd have a 7 over 3 is equal to 7 over, and then when I replace that with a 7 minus 4, I get a 3, and you'll see those are completely in balance. So I found a correct solution. And if I put negative 3 in, it'll work also. So we're going to go, yeah, I probably have some short notes here, probably just do 2 more maybe, if that. So number 2, x over negative 3 is directly proportional to 5 over x plus 8. And let's follow those steps we wrote. Step 1, cross multiply. X times x plus 8 is equal to negative 3 times 5. And then I go do that multiplication. X times x is x squared, never 2x. X times 8 is 8x. And on the right-hand side, I get a negative 15. Step 2 is the most important step for keeping you from getting stuck. You need to get that right-hand side equal to 0. So I go look at that minus 15, and to get it equal to 0, I need to add 15 to both sides of the equation. Then I just do a rewrite. I get x squared plus 8x plus 15 is equal to 15 and a negative 15 added up, which gives me 0, which I want. You want that right-hand side to be a happy 0 over there. Step 3 was to factor it, and I told you they'll factor easily. You shouldn't really struggle finding what multiplies to equal 15, while at the same time adds up to 8. The answer is 5 and 3. So I'll have x plus 5 times x plus 3 is equal to 0. And I'm not done because my goal is to figure out what x can be so that these are completely in balance. So I still need to solve this, but it really just results in me saying if two things multiply to equal 0, either this side is 0 or this side 0. You can't multiply things and get a 0 if one of the parts isn't 0. So what would make x plus 5 equal to 0? The answer is a negative 5. What would make x plus 3 equal to 0? And the answer is a negative 3. So again, I have two solutions, negative 5 and negative 3. So I'm going to have you try one on your own, and then that'll be it. Notes are under 10 minutes here today. So I'll write one down, then pause the video, and you do it on your own. All right, let's go. Do x over x minus 6 is in balance with x over 2. I'd like you to pause the video and go try that one on your own and see how you do. So here we go. You should do cross multiply. 2 times x is equal to cross multiply x times x minus 6. I need to distribute this in, and I get the 2x is equal to x squared minus 6x. I need to get one side equal to 0. It can be the right side or the left side. I know on that last one I wrote the right side, I think, on our steps, but it doesn't have to be. You just need one side equal to 0, and it'll be less to move if we take care of getting this 2x out of here. So I'm going to subtract 2x, and I'm going to put it under its like term because these can actually go together because they have both x terms. So I've got 0 over on the left equaling x squared, and then I'm down 6x's, down 2 more x's will put me down 8x's. And you might say, well, how am I supposed to factor that? Well, we've had this kind quite a bit. Both terms have x's in them, so what you're going to do is you're going to yank an x out, and it's going to leave you, it's actually an easy kind of, it's the easiest kind of factoring where you just have to pull one thing out, where it's not 3 terms and you're trying to undo it. So I have two things that multiply to equal 0. What that means is either this side is 0 or this side is 0. So on the left of that little barrier is just an x. So that means x is 0, or to the right of that little barrier is x minus 8. So, or x minus 8 has to equal 0. What that would mean is x would be 8 itself. So I've got two answers to the 0 and 8. So I'm done. You will now, for this one, grab worksheet number 2. Let's go over here, number 2. It is yellow, and I will do one of them on there for you. So go pause this, go grab the yellow number 2 worksheet, and once you're sitting back at your desk, hit play again, and I will be doing one of them on there. Now I've chosen to do number 2 for you. All right, so for number 2 on the yellow number 2 worksheet, it's got another 2 on it. 2 must be my favorite number today. I picked this one because it's got lots of negatives in it, so we're just going to be careful. And have your notes out where they have the steps written in that margin. And the first one says cross multiply. A negative times a negative is a positive. Don't forget parentheses. Hippity hoppity. Distributive property. X times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is minus 1x, or just minus x. I need to get one side equal to 0. In this case, it's easiest to move this 2 over. So I'm going to subtract 2. It doesn't have a like term in it because this is x squared, this is an x, and 2 is just alone. So none of that goes together over on the right-hand side, but on the left I have that nice happy 0 that I'd like to get. So 0 equals x squared minus 1x minus 2. And you might say, do I have to put the 1 in? And actually you shouldn't, but I like to have it in there so you can see it with the factoring, because the next step up is factor this side over here. The only thing that multiplies to equal 2 are a 2 and a 1. But if I don't mess with the signs, I'm going to get a positive 2, and it's going to add up to a positive 3. That's not what I want. I want to multiply to get a negative 2 and add up to a negative 1. And since when I add them up, I'm getting a negative, I need more of those. So I'm going to have an x minus 2 times an x plus 1. I'm not done because my goal was to figure out what is x. Well, again, I've got two things multiplying to equal 0. What that means is either the left-hand side has to be a 0 or the right-hand side has to equal 0. So either x minus 2 is equal to 0, and if it's not, then x plus 1 has to equal 0. Because again, you can multiply things forever, and until one of those is 0, you won't get a 0. The minute I did that, it doesn't even matter what I put after it. The whole thing obliterates. So I add 2 to this one and get x equals positive 2. I subtract 1 on this side and get x equals negative 1. And I've got 2 solutions. So you go ahead and finish up that yellow number 2 worksheet and have a good one, guys. Keep working hard.